Hey, what's going on, you guys? My name is Hector Salazar. Today I'm going to be talking about the social exchange theory. So, pretty straightforward. The theory is talking about when the benefit of a relationship outweighs the cost. And one thing that I really wanted to highlight is in that theory, the comparison level for alternatives, right? So, that's talking about how in a relationship, when the benefit outweighs the cost, or even just being in the relationship, you start to compare what am I getting out of this relationship? Is it worth it? And will a different relationship be a little bit better for me? Will I obtain more things, whether it be happiness, satisfaction, what have you? Will I attain these things from a different relationship a little bit more so than the one that I'm in right now? And so, what it makes me think about is, I always had a theory of my own where I talk about how a lot of people tend to look down on themselves. They tend to think less about themselves. And in doing so, they get a partner that they don't really vibe with. They don't necessarily feel like they gain too much from, rather than just not being lonely. And so they get with a partner that they were never really too physically attracted to, never really too emotionally attracted to. And then later on, when they have this time to act upon this comparison level for alternatives and act upon, the social exchange theory, or not act upon it, but they have time to think on it, they start thinking about, well, this girl at work gives me a little bit more attention and she's super pretty, or this guy that I meet, at the coffee shop, he's really handsome and he talks to me. Maybe this should be a relationship that I'm in. Maybe I would get more from this relationship. And I think that can be very, very harmful. I think that's something that can really, really affect us negatively. It starts making us compare everything, because there always is going to be somebody that vibes with you more. There's always going to be a prettier person that you might even be able to woo and become boyfriends and girlfriends with, or what have you, or become friends with. And there's always going to be somebody better than yourself that they can do the same thing with. And I think it reminds me on how God wanted us to look at these relationships. He never wanted us to straight up find our husband or wife and get with them just because you are not satisfied with how you are, and so you kind of just take whatever you can get. And in doing so, you will always have that thing to compare. There will always be a fight that comes up that makes you think, you know what, I'm not getting any benefit from this relationship, I'm out of here. Same thing with friends. But what God wanted us to do is find somebody who's after Him. Find them, and you're attracted to them, and be with them. And our brains are naturally wanting to, like this theory suggests, compare and contrast and think about, does this even benefit me at all? But God said, find the person who you love, find the person who loves me, and be after them. And even when you do argue, go back to them and reconcile and fight for it, because this should be the only person that you fight for. And just like our relationship with God, there's going to be ups and downs. But as soon as you tell yourself that the down is going to be the entirety of that relationship, that's whenever you'll leave. That's whenever things will break down. And who's to say it's going to be different from any other relationship that you have, where the same thing can happen pretty much exactly. And it makes me think about this concept, because it's like, it reminds you of how shallow the world can be. And if all we had were these theories to act upon, we would never have a substantial relationship, a godly relationship, a beautiful relationship that lasts until we're 80 years old. All we would have are these things that don't matter, these things that we can just break off and start a new one. And it makes me think about, how comparison is the thief of joy. I remember at my last job, a coworker found out how much money I was making. I let it slip, and he ended up going to the boss, talking with him about it, and quitting because, he wasn't making as much. And it just goes to show you, maybe we would have been a little bit happier if he didn't figure that out. And so don't let comparison steal your joy. And even though our curiosity might want us to think that we do want these things, might be better off to stay 10 toes down, be solid with where we are, and be with the decisions that we made. Thank you, guys.